Welcome to Yoga for Anxiety. I'm Christine, and today we'll use some props for our practice. There's some quite nice props. So I'm using a blanket and I've got a cushion. So I'm sitting on my cushion here. My legs are crossed, but if that doesn't work for you, you can sit with your legs outstretched, or maybe you'll begin your practice today sitting in the chair, so you can decide what works for you, but just get nice and comfortable. I'm wearing some socks as well, so I don't normally wear socks when I'm practicing yoga, especially if it's a warm day, but I just want to have these feelings of comfort in my clothes so that I can really feel held and nourished throughout my practice in this moment. And I've got the blanket, and I'm going to wrap the blanket around myself. And this is a really nice way to self-soothe. So if you're feeling anxious, or you feel like things are closing in, or things feel like a little bit too much, then this can be a really nice thing to do, to wrap yourself tightly in the blanket. Or if you have weighted blankets as well, oh, they're so lovely. You can lie down with a weighted blanket, but this will do for now. So make sure that you're warm, that you're comfortable. You might need to pause the video and go and get a blanket, or get the socks, or anything else that you've just thought of now that you'd like for your practice. It's an easy, gentle practice, and it's quite short as well. So we'll begin to just notice the breath. And you're welcome to close the eyes if that works for you. Otherwise, you can just take a soft gaze or pick a point to focus on. And begin to tune in with your breath. So using the breath like an anchor in the practice to keep us focused on something. Knowing when you're breathing in and knowing when you're breathing out. And don't try to change the breath dramatically in any way. It's an easy, natural breath, very little effort, flowing in and flowing out. And then begin to notice, once you've taken the breath in, that little pause before you breathe out. And then begin to notice the little pause once you've finished the exhale before you take the inhale. There's an inhale, a pause, an exhale, a pause, inhale, a pause, exhale, a pause. You might even start to imagine this breath in your mind's eye in the shape of a square. So one side of the square is the inhale. The next side is the pause. And the opposite side to the inhale is the exhale. And then again the pause. And then the inhale. And so on and so forth. So you can have this visualization of the square, or the box as it's sometimes referred to, box breathing, in your mind. And this can be a really great, easy focal point if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, if you know you need to come back to your breath. So breathing like this in your own time, at your own pace. Try not to overdo the inhale. Really focus on letting the breath out with each exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, begin to just come back to an easy, natural breath. There's no effort. Blink the eyes back open and bring the gaze back around the room. So that box breathing is a really simple technique that I often use in stages where there's feelings of overwhelm or that can't cope feeling, or as I sometimes refer to it, it's all coming in on me feeling. And it's just such a great visualization to think about the breath in that shape. And once you start to focus on it, you can't really think about anything else. And the breath in it just automatically slows down. One little tip that I will tell you, and I mentioned it there, was to focus more on the exhale than the inhale. Sometimes when we're overwhelmed or a little bit anxious, we can really focus on the inhale. And I think a lot of the time as well, people say, calm down, take a deep breath. That's great, but really you should be taking a big exhale. Not a big inhale or not a deep inhale, a deep exhale. So really letting the breath out, because a lot of the time when we're over breathing and we're breathing in too much, this can just make you feel actually worse in the situation. So really think about that exhale, that letting go, the softening, and the inhale will always take care of itself. We're not going to stop breathing at any stage. So I hope you find that to be a helpful technique. And then if you're still wrapped up in your blanket like me, this is actually really nice. I'm pulling it tight across myself. My arms are crossed and it's like a hugging feeling. And then we'll start to circle out the head. So breathing out as the chin comes down to the chest, breathing in as the head rolls back. So slow, controlled movement. And you can always come back to that box breath at any stage during the practice, or you can just be with an easy natural breath. It's all good. Next time the chin comes down, pause here and then start to circle back the other way. And then breathing in slowly, take yourself back into center. Your eyes might have just automatically closed there again. That totally happens when we're circling out the neck. So you can blink the eyes open and bring the gaze back around the room. And then from here, we'll roll over onto the hands and knees. Now, you are so welcome to keep the blanket over you when you do this. This can kind of create a little cocoon to do your practice in. So please feel free to do that. I'm going to take the blanket off just so you guys can see me for a little bit of guidance. And then I'll move the cushion out of the way. And I'm going to leave the socks on because they're really comfy. And then come onto the hands and knees. Take the knees nice and wide. The big toes come towards each other. And we sink the hips back towards the heels for a gentle child's pose. Walking the fingertips out in front. And you might come down. Maybe the head's coming to the floor. For some of you, this might feel like too much. You might keep the forehead up and bring the forearms in and just rest here. So any of these variations are good. So imagine you've got the blanket. You might still have it over you now. It could even be over your head. And then breathe into the back of the body, into the upper back, mid back and low back. Maybe your eyes will close again, letting the focus rest inwards on the breath. And begin to notice if there's anywhere in the body that you're holding tension or tightness in a very physical sense. Is there any niggles? Is there anything you feel you want to work out today? Just bring your awareness to it now. And then send your breath down to wherever that body part is. And then come to your mind. And start to visualize your mind in categories or even bookshelves. Sometimes I like to visualize the bookshelves are labeled. One could be labeled, for me anyway, housework. Another could be labeled work or kids' hobbies or yoga. So you could have lots of different categories here, and you don't have to label them all. You can just see them all at a distance and you know that they're there. And then notice if there's one category that's really standing out to you. It could be one that could be bringing you into the overwhelm. And just acknowledge it. It's there.
There's nothing we can do about it right now. It's out of our control at this moment. We're here at our yoga practice, focusing on our breath. This is the decision that you've made to do in this moment. Be true to that decision. Just be here with your breath. And then see if you can disengage with those thoughts, even just briefly. So we can't stop the thoughts completely. That would be impossible. But we can make that choice to decide. Let's just pull a cover over that bookshelf. Let's put that category to one side just for now and be here with our breath, with our bodies, and find calmness in the mind. So taking a few more breaths here in Balasana, child's pose. You might start to feel a little bit lighter now that you've made that decision to just be here. You've made the choice. And then in your own time, when you're ready, start to bring yourself back up again. The blanket might still be over you. Readjust the knees, bringing them a little bit closer together. And then start to rock the hips back towards the heels. Breathe in to come forwards and breathe out to rock back. So move here in your own time with your breath. Really gentle, easy movement. Soothing your body, soothing your mind. The eyes could still be closed if you like. Just really observing the sensations in the body. And then start to make circles. You might even widen the knees and the hands for this one. Circling out the body. Imagining any tension, any holding just dissolving as we move with the breath. Go with the flow. Going one way and then pause and go the other way. And then let's take it back into center. From here, take your right hand and bring it underneath your left hand. Maybe you can bring the shoulder down towards the floor. Your head might come down. Perhaps you've got the pillow now. You can pop it underneath the head and find a really gentle, easy shoulder stretch. So notice here, if there's tension creeping into the hips, can you ask them to relax? The answer from your hips might be no. That's okay. Just acknowledge whether they're relaxed or not. And then when you're ready, slowly come back up. We'll take the other side. So the right hand comes back to the floor, the left hand slides under, and the head comes down. And once again, asking those hips to relax. Breathing into the side ribs. Let your right shoulder be soft. Sometimes you have the tendency to press into the ground with the right hand. Just let it be there. And then with your next inhale, slowly coming back up into center. We'll move the cushion out. And then from here, bring your right knee forwards on the mat. So you could have the knee anywhere from the center of the mat to right out at the side. It just depends on what's happening in the hip. For some people, it's going to feel better with the knee really closed and the toes pointing back like this. For others, the ankle might be down on the floor. And then you move the back leg back. And then once again, you can have the cushion here if you like. So you might stay here more upright. And after a few breaths, perhaps you'll come down to the forearms. So you could have the cushion there for support. If your blanket's over you, you might even be bringing it over your head now. And if you feel like you need more support, you can always put something underneath the right sitting bone here. So I'm I'm just going to reach for a block, but you could use another cushion or a rolled towel if you don't have yoga blocks. And this can be really supportive. And then perhaps you'll rest all the way down here. So you can be anywhere from being up on tall arms to forearms to being right down on the floor. And just finding the place that works for your body. And if you decide to explore coming down a little bit lower and it's not working, if something doesn't feel right, then you can always come back to the stage before that and see how it feels. Can you surrender into the pose for the last few breaths? Really just letting go and being here now. And when you're ready to come out of the pose, come back up onto the hands and then press yourself so that you can slide the right leg back, move your block over if you're using it, and then bring the left leg forwards. So again, the knee could be anywhere from the outside of the mat right over to the other side of the mat, anywhere in between. Your foot, for some people, they'll bring their foot right up here. It's way too intense at this moment. For others, the toes could be pointed back, so it's just like a folded leg, or maybe the side of the foot and the ankle are down on the floor. So there's no right or wrong with this. You might be really high up like this, maybe popping something or a couple of things in underneath the sitting bones. One side is probably going to be different to the other. And then explore this pose slowly with your breath. You might stay up on long arms, or maybe you'll choose to come down. Where can you soften? Where can you surrender? And when you're ready to come up, it's a very slow release up, pressing the hands into the floor. And then moving the knee back. And then from here, you can decide whether you would like to take child's pose to finish your practice. So that was the one we took at the beginning with the knees wide apart and walking the hands forward. So you might take this supported with cushions and blankets, or maybe you'll come to lie down on the back in a traditional Shavasana. So if you've got an eye pillow, you can use the eye pillow. If you've got a bolster or the rolled towels, maybe you'll put them underneath your knees. And then my favourite prop of all, the blanket. Oh, there's a pencil. I don't think we need that. So take your time to come into your version of corpse pose, Shavasana. So for some people, it's not going to feel good to lie on the back. So maybe you lie on the side. You might take this like fetus pose where you're curled into a little ball on your side. I always find this is really restful. Curling yourself in. Or maybe you'll go for lying on the back. Or you might even stay seated. You get to decide. It's your practice. I've got the knees bent here, so this is nice for the lower back. And wherever you are. Perhaps you'll close the eyes if that feels good. And just notice wherever your body is. Grounding down into the support that you've chosen. Cushions, blankets, bolsters, towels, the floor, the earth. All of these items here ready to hold you and cradle you. And begin to notice your mind. So just acknowledging throughout the practice whether or not the mind was wandering, or did you just forget everything and enjoy the practice for what it was. Movement, breath, mindfulness. And just give yourself the permission to just be here for these last few moments. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to go. Just be here, finding a sense of calmness, relaxation, letting go. And you're welcome to stay here for as long as you like, taking rest. Or if you're ready to move now, gently move the fingers and toes. If you're on the back, you can roll to one side. If you're in child's pose, maybe you'll press yourself back up. And we'll come back up at the end of practice, wrapping the blanket around us again. And giving yourself that lovely tight hug at the end of practice, thanking yourself for being here, for giving yourself the gift of your practice. And then if it feels good for you, bring the hands together at the heart center, bowing your head, offering deepest thanks and respects to one another for our practice today. Namaste.